Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another walk and talk. A bit of English countryside for you guys. Probably more so if you're actually out in the States, so you can see what it's like over here. It has literally just rained, so try to make this one a little bit quicker, see if I can get back before the rains and the heavens open up once again. I just want to do a bit of a brief update on Bitcoin and the general crypto market as it continues to kind of move in what seems to be like a sideways trading movement at the moment. If you're down in the Discord, you'll kind of know my thoughts and opinions on what I think is likely to happen here next for Bitcoin. So we have seen a continuation of what I was talking about a few days ago in terms of on-chain data. We are seeing basically retail investors starting to take profit. And this is actually a key thing that I'm glad to see, because I do think we are going to be seeing a move to the downside. And if you've been catching up with the videos, you'll know my thoughts on CME gaps and why I think $20,000 is a nice area to be kind of targeting out for on a nice healthy move to the downside. So with retail investors taking profits, obviously that Bitcoin has to go somewhere, right? And so what have we seen? Well, we've seen Bitcoin whales actually soaking up some of that supply. And this is what I was talking about what feels like maybe even 12 months ago, where we are to expect to see retail investors starting to sell off some of their assets, and those assets to be purchased up by the whale investor, okay, the large institutional investor. So we're starting to see pockets of that now. It's really still small. It's not massive movements. It's not massive amounts of Bitcoin transferred between retail and institutional level investors, but it is something. It is slowly kind of working its way in that general direction, which is finally something good to kind of see when it comes to Bitcoin in that kind of sense, because this is one of the key things that we need to see with Bitcoin if we want to see that bullish market. So it's good to finally start to see little glimpses of this within that on-chain data. And with Bitcoin's price currently moving more in kind of like a sideways kind of trading fashion, we have of course seen liquidations be smaller, hovering around that kind of 30 million in the last 24 hours. And for the most part, it's actually long positions that are getting wiped out at this particular point in time. Not unsurprising, because we've had a little bit of a natural pull back to the downside. So it's not unusual in that kind of sense. It is to kind of be expected. I still think though that we are likely to see a bit of a move to the upside on Bitcoin. I think we are in a triangle at the moment, basically a continuation pattern on the smaller time frames, where we are to see a little bit more of a move to the downside briefly before we kind of move up more towards that kind of 37k area. Now, when it comes to $37,000 Bitcoin, and if we do not overextend there and head out towards 40k, I think this is the point where we start to see a reversal in the market, and it could be next week that we actually start to see this kind of cement in a little bit more, and where we start to move back down, heading towards $30,000 as a key support line for Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin being kind of, at the forefront of lots of different retail investors' mindsets, specifically with spot ETFs and with its price movement at the moment, where does this leave altcoins? Well, a lot of money has been flowing in and out of altcoins, funny enough. We've seen pockets of great rallies. Chainlink, Aurora are two clear examples of this. But we also see some pulling down, and quite naturally so, money flowing out of those and heading more towards Bitcoin. And this is obvious from the total 2 and total 3 charts, where we take a look at market cap, and we can see that actually, Bitcoin dominance is growing. It's getting some momentum behind it at the expense of altcoins. Now, for altcoins, I do think we are going to be having a last chance kind of buying opportunity, as I've been talking about pretty much all week long. As we kind of have this pullback on Bitcoin, my expectations are for a good 50% reduction in price for many of these altcoins. That might be devastating for many retail investors, but for the most part is where large institutional investors will be soaking up a lot of that supply. Now, the only question I have in my mind is whether this pull to the downside for Bitcoin happens in 2023 or in 2024. Now, I kind of alluded to this morning in this morning's Bitcoin video, where I'm a little bit concerned that if Bitcoin does pull back down towards $20,000 to 20 to 21,000 before the Fed pivot, that's going to potentially cause a bit of a problem for Bitcoin and more of a catastrophic issue for altcoins. It could lead us down to Bitcoin being sub $10,000 over 2024 if we do not see the initial pull to the downside for Bitcoin to 20K being created and caused by a Fed pivot. Now, a Fed pivot, some people might say, is not a guarantee, and they're right. Let me get rid of that bug off the camera there. They're right, it's not a guarantee that we have a Fed pivot. However, I think for the most part, it is to be expected. We cannot see inflation and interest rates continue in the way that they are. They have historically been as high as this, and in fact higher. But I think for the most part, they need to turn the money printer back on. And specifically, if there is going to be a war that needs to be funded and all these kind of things, I do expect money to be printed. Money to be printed essentially means inflation, and we're probably going to have to see interest rates drop. So a Fed pivot would be key to all of those things. A Fed pivot, historically speaking, has an impact on the stock market, where we do normally tend to see a 50% reduction in stock prices, and as such, I would expect that to also flow through into the crypto space. So if, of course, Bitcoin pulls back to $20,000 before a Fed pivot, and let's say we bounce from 20K and we hit 25K, then the Fed pivot, I think we can start to realistically talk about a $10,000 Bitcoin again. But until these things unfold, I think for the most part, I think the bottom could potentially be in for Bitcoin now, and that we can see a $20,000 reduction, or the $20,000 Bitcoin, a 40% reduction in price as a nice healthy correction to the downside to reset all of the charts and get us ready for the next bullish market to the upside. But obviously, we're a little ways off just yet. We'll have to see whether the macroeconomic climate can battle that of the Bitcoin spot ETF as to which one is going to outweigh the other, and whether or not we are going to just be heading out into a bullish market in 2024. Let me know what your thoughts are on all of this down in the comments below. But I think I'm going to just wrap this video up right there and try to dodge the incoming rain. If you have found this useful, informative, smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and don't forget to join us down in Discord. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.